It is an absolutely great time to be a fan of the LEGO Marvel Superheroes theme. Over the last couple of weeks, we have gotten official images of the brand new Infinity Saga line, as well as arguably the best LEGO Marvel set ever made, that being the Daily Bugle. Every single one of these sets are amazing. Like, if I had the money, I would buy every single one. So 2021 is really shaping up to be the best year for LEGO Marvel Superheroes ever. But there's still a problem with this theme that has been around since the very beginning, and one that a lot of us thought would change this year, and that is that LEGO minifigures from the Marvel theme never have any leg printing. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal considering we are getting such amazing sets this year, but it's still an issue and one that I did want to talk about. It was just a much larger topic, so I couldn't cover it in my past couple of videos, and we actually got more information about how the decision to add leg printing is made. So in this video, I'll be talking about why these minifigures don't have leg printing, should they have leg printing, and do they suck since they don't. But before we go ahead and talk about that, I did want to give a really quick reminder that the giveaway for $100 worth of your choice of LEGO sets is still going on. So you could actually win a bunch of the upcoming Infinity Saga sets, which are looking absolutely insane. All you got to do to enter is make sure you are subscribed, follow that link in the description, and sign in with your YouTube account. That's it, super simple and 100% free. And it turns out that less than 7% of you guys that watch these videos are subscribed to the channel, so make sure you subscribe because it's free and you'll get a chance at winning some free LEGO sets. Anyways, let's get back to the topic at hand here. So obviously the upcoming Infinity Saga sets as well as the Daily Bugle really look awesome, but the thing is their minifigure lineups are really lacking in leg printing. In fact, through those Infinity Saga sets as well as the Daily Bugle, only 5 out of 41 new minifigures have leg printing. Those 5 being Carnage, who we've actually gotten before in other sets, Green Goblin, both the Iron Man minifigures, and the Mark 85 Iron Man suit is also old and we've seen it before, and then finally Teenage Groot. But in general, the vast majority of these minifigures don't have any leg printing. Now I do gotta give LEGO credit here, the amount of minifigures with dual molded legs has increased significantly. We see them use a lot more throughout different sets here, but in general, there are a lot of figures that could use them that still don't. But before we talk about if these minifigures kind of suck due to not having leg printing, I did want to take a look at why they don't have leg printing. So as part of the reveal for the new Daily Bugle set, the senior designer named Mark Stafford went on Reddit and answered a bunch of fan questions, and through those answers we got a really good behind the scenes look as to how each of these sets were made. So there are 2 key questions to take a look at here. One fan directly asked how they decide which minifigures get new molds or extra prints, and the designer actually gave a really long and detailed answer to this question. It is a pretty lengthy one, but the main issue here is space. So when it comes to making new parts in different colors, LEGO factories can run out of space very easily. So every single LEGO piece that's ever been made has its own box, and each of these boxes need to be stored until it's ready to be packed and put into sets. So each team of designers is given a number of boxes that they can use for unique pieces. The thing is, when you start to print these bricks, it essentially doubles the count of the box. So if you have the leg pieces, for example, first you have the hips, which is one box, then you have the right leg, which is another box, then you have the left leg, which is also another box, and if you print those legs, it becomes its own separate box. So that means printing parts in general takes up a lot of the boxes that designers have that are actually pretty limited. So by taking away leg printing, they actually have new boxes that they can use for entirely new figures or different pieces in new colors. So that is pretty much the trade-off that designers have to think about when they're deciding whether or not to add printing onto a minifigure. So for some minifigures like Iron Man, maybe they see it as too vital to his look, so they'll include it there. But then other characters like Captain America, they might think maybe he can go without it, so they don't include any leg printing there and instead use those boxes for other parts. And just because it's the Marvel theme and most of these sets are centered around minifigures, I'm assuming they're using those extra boxes on including even more minifigures. So that is pretty much the reasoning as to why they don't include leg printing on these figures. It's not just completely out of nowhere, it is kind of a balancing act that they have to do. And first of all, I gotta say that completely makes sense. I can definitely see why that would become a problem, and I can really see why they would decide to not go with leg printing on so many different minifigures. But the thing that I keep asking myself here is why do other themes like Star Wars, Ninjago, Harry Potter, or even DC have so much more minifigures with leg printing than Marvel does? Now I'm assuming this is due to budget. Like every year every theme gets a budget on how much stuff they can produce, and I'm assuming that's based off their sales, so Star Wars would probably be the highest and Ninjago would also be up there as well. And now I don't really have the official numbers from LEGO or anything, but I don't see how Harry Potter or DC are outselling the Marvel theme. Marvel as an IP is just currently way more popular than any of those 2 other themes, so it really doesn't make that that much sense to me that Harry Potter or DC would be outselling Marvel, who's kind of at the top of their game right now. I mean, we haven't gotten anything from Harry Potter in terms of movies or any other type of content in a long time, and DC is absolutely all over the place at the moment. The only one that seems to really know what it's doing is Star Wars and Marvel, so I'm assuming those themes would be the ones that sell the best. So that was just one thing I was thinking about. I don't see why Star Wars minifigures, even random figures, get all this leg printing and then Marvel ones don't. I'm assuming those ones are given more space or boxes, but then again, why are they given more considering Marvel is probably going to sell more sets? Now that was just the first important question that gave us a lot of details. The next one here, a fan asked why the new Black Panther minifigure doesn't have any leg printing. And this is a very good question because it pertains exactly to what we're discussing here. So this one actually had a short answer by the designer, who said that Black Panther didn't get leg prints because his legs are pretty much black with no real details, so he could save his print box for another location. And that seems fair enough, right? Like they wanted to save space and give us opportunities at getting even better minifigures instead of including leg printing on the Black Panther. The point I have to disagree with here is that he doesn't need leg printing. Now, as you guys know, I don't really like the whole kinetic energy Black Panther minifigure, so assuming he doesn't have any of the purple stuff flowing through him, there are still details on his legs that I think he does need, specifically with toe printing and these silver spikes on his knees. Like, yeah, his legs are majority black, but there still are details there that would make his figure look so much better. And then if you add the kinetic energy on top of that, it would allow the purple prints to flow so much better throughout the figure. And there are other figures that could really use leg printing too, mainly Captain America. Like, that's one of the worst offenders to me. The Captain America minifigure has never had leg printing through his entire history, and that's absolutely tragic since he's such an important and iconic character who would look so much better with leg printing. Now the thing is, he doesn't really need leg printing specifically, but just leg details in general, which can also be achieved with dual molded legs. And that is something that they've actually stepped up this year, so I do applaud them for that, but it does seem like they're doing that to make up for the fact that they don't have many minifigures with printed legs. So this is pretty much the reasoning as to why we don't get printed legs on certain minifigures. It's pretty much due to saving costs and giving us more opportunities to get even more minifigures or new pieces and parts and that type of thing. But again, I still can't see past the fact that characters from Star Wars, Ninjago, Harry Potter, and DC have way more leg printing than Marvel. It just really doesn't make any sense to me that the budget for Marvel is less than any of those themes, and if it is, LEGO should really be changing that. Unless these sales completely don't support this, again, I don't have these sales numbers for sets, LEGO doesn't release that type of stuff, but just based off the popularity of the MCU, I don't see how LEGO Marvel sets could be doing worse than DC or Harry Potter. Anyways, there's your reason as to why they don't have leg printing. Now let's talk about how this actually affects these minifigures. So I do want to put this out there right at the beginning. I think all of these sets are amazing, and I'm probably going to buy every single one of them. Like, this really is the best year of the LEGO Marvel theme ever. They've addressed so many different fan concerns, especially with going back and making sets on older movies, and then also making extremely awesome and non-MCU based stuff like the Daily Bugle. So this year of Marvel has been great, but I'm still a little bit disappointed with the minifigures. I don't think they're bad, I don't think they suck, but they really could be better. I guess we've already touched on this earlier in the video, but figures like Captain America and Black Panther really do need leg printing, or dual molded legs at the least. Because the thing is here that the minifigures themselves overall do look really nice, it's just that their plain colored legs look so empty, and that really distracts from the rest of the minifigure, which looks absolutely awesome. So they don't suck in terms of Marvel minifigures. As Marvel figures go, I think these are some of the best, but as LEGO minifigures overall, I do think they kind of suck. Like, the sheer lack of leg printing on such important and iconic characters is something that you'd never see in any of these other themes like Star Wars or Harry Potter or DC. Like, let's be honest here, how many times have they printed robes on black legs for characters like Kylo Ren, Darth Vader, or Palpatine? Like, in general, what's going on there is you have black on black, which doesn't even stand out that much in real life. So if you consider Black Panther not having too many details, I'd also say that Kylo Ren doesn't have many details in his legs either. So in comparison to the Star Wars theme, I do say these minifigures kind of do suck a bit. And I don't want to sound ungrateful or anything here because this wave of sets is absolutely awesome. But in some cases, especially with the Daily Bugle, which is supposed to be a very high-end and premium set, it just sticks out so much more. Like, the Daily Bugle is essentially an Ultimate Collector Series Marvel set, kind of like what we see with Star Wars. And just compare this to a large playset that we get from Star Wars, like the Betrayal at Cloud City, for example. The minifigures there are some of the most detailed figures that we've ever seen in Star Wars. They're not just doing leg printing, they're doing arm printing, wraparound leg printing, things that we never really see in LEGO in general. But then then here with the Daily Bugle, which is also a very large and premium set, we only have 2 minifigures with leg printing, and one of those we've seen in a smaller set. And in comparison to the Betrayal at Cloud City, that just kind of sucks, especially since the Daily Bugle is so expensive. Like, really think about this for a second. Does Bespin Luke really need those 2 pockets? Like, they had to add a whole new box and everything to make up for this printed piece. But then you have characters like Daredevil or Blade who have no leg printing at all. And one could argue that they don't really need it, but the thing is, we are probably never going to get these minifigures again, and since they're included in such a large, expensive set, I'd want the best versions of these characters that we could ever see. Like, especially looking at the minifigure for Blade here, he wears a very iconic long black trench coat. And on this minifigure, it doesn't continue down to his legs at all, it just stops at the torso. So I really think this minifigure could have used some leg printing, but then they didn't include it to add room for extra characters, which seems like a good idea, but then those extra characters were a bunch of civilians. This is going to be completely up to personal preference and just how attached you are to certain characters, but in my opinion, I'd really have a more detailed Blade minifigure rather than Bernie the cab driver. Like, if they didn't include him in this set, I don't think I'd really care that much. Like, sacrificing Bernie here for some extra leg printing on Blade seems like a really fair deal, and that's a deal I think I would take. Now, there is one outlier here to me, that being the Scarlet Witch minifigure. This is the one that is included in the Endgame Final Battle set, and in the movie, I'm pretty sure she's wearing a suit that is almost identical, if not very, very similar to the one that she wears in Civil War. And we've actually gotten a Civil War Scarlet Witch in Lego form before. That minifigure, in my opinion, was really amazing. No, she didn't have leg printing, but they did include this waist cape, and the hairpiece used here just looks so much more like Elizabeth Olsen to me. But the thing is, this new 2021 version of Scarlet Witch doesn't look nearly as good to me. Like, the hairpiece for one looks absolutely off. I think she should be using a lighter hair color as well, and they took away that waist cape part and included nothing else in terms of leg printing, so it's just overall a less detailed minifigure. I guess the torso print is slightly more detailed, but in general, I'd say this is just a straight up downgrade. Also, her blasts and all that stuff should really be trans red instead of this trans purple color. I still don't know why they do that. Her energy is red, not purple. So for the most part, this entire lineup of minifigures, whether that be in the Infinity Saga or the Daily Bugle, is overall a great selection. It's amazing to have most of these characters added into these sets, but in general, I still think they should be much better. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand why the designers made the decisions that they made, but in general, I still think I disagree with most of them, and the ones that are limited by budget, I think Lego just needs to fix by increasing the Marvel theme's budget. But who knows, maybe that's not even possible for Lego. We really don't know that much details about the inner workings of the company. So should these minifigures have leg printing? Absolutely 100% yes. And do they suck now since they don't have any leg printing? I'd still say no, but they definitely could be so much better. At the end of the day, they still are really cool Lego minifigures. So guys, make sure to let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. How do you guys feel about these upcoming minifigures from the Infinity Saga line, as well as the Daily Bugle? Have they met your expectations in terms of details? Are there characters that you wanted to see instead? And has the minifigure lineup affected your purchasing decision of these sets at all? Whatever you're thinking, anything and everything, make sure to leave it down in the comments below. Also, if you guys haven't had a chance to enter the giveaway, make sure to do so. But that will pretty much do it for me. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.